I need to go ahead and talk about a couple of things, which is just frustrating, we'll go ahead and say, at the very small bit. So there's this contingent of people on the left who really kind of bother me a lot. And they're the kind who, when there actually is a Democrat who is doing a lot of good in the United States government, it's not enough for them. It's not enough for them. Now, there are reasons to be vaguely anti-Democrat on the left. Chuck Schumer exists. And, you know, it's not just him. It's not just him. There's plenty of other arguments. In fact, one of them could also be John Fetterman. Because Fetterman has also been going live and saying cool things like Trump's ballroom is fine, even if it costs taxpayers $1 billion after Trump said that it wouldn't. That's cool. That's fine. I'm okay with everything that's going on there. That's vaguely great anyway. So, who are we actually talking about then? Who's the person who we need to actually have a discussion about? Well, it's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, there's been a lot of whisperings that AOC is going to be running for president, and because she's been doing a lot of things with Bernie Sanders and has been for years, she gets a lot of spotlight between the stuff that she's done streaming and with video games with the squad, and just generally being a more online politician. Well, the side effect of that is you get stuff like this. Now, I do not know this creator, and for all I know, they mean well with this clip. They mean well with a lot of stuff they're doing, I'm assuming. Because I've seen this person pop up in my feed, and the titlings are almost always some type of vaguely left-wing thing, so I'm just going to assume, maybe, possibly, comrade? Not sure. But let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
Wait, AOC refused to team up with Marjorie Taylor Greene to sanction Israel because of identity politics. But when it comes time to sanction China, she's more than willing to team up with Ted Cruz and Tom Cotton. Oh, you've been played, guys. AOC refuses to lead. She does not want to take us any further. No progress is going to come from her. You hear me? Got it.
Okay, so that's a dumb fucking statement. And let's go ahead and explain why. So, Ted Cruz, being a co-signer on a bill sanctioning China, and a bunch of, let's just say, any Democrat, AOC, but any Democrat signing off on that as well, fine. But just pointing out, oh, look, this thing maybe smells kind of like hypocrisy, is very stupid. Because the claim effectively boils down to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually played you. Because she's not actually anti-genocide. She's not willing to work with Marjorie Taylor Greene sanctioning Israel because MTG is not sanctioning Israel because of the genocide that they're doing. She's sanctioning it because she's a historical anti-Semite. Like, that's the thing. You can be anti-Zionist, which I am, without being anti-Semitic, which I'm not. But MTG, Miss Jewish fucking Space Lasers, has a history of being anti-Semitic. She has gone on record to speak with Nick Fuentes at APAC, or AFPAC, that's the one, AFPAC. She's gone to speak at actual Nazi conventions. And yet, we seem to be in this weird world where now that Trump is against her, she's anti-Israel, and that's supposed to be the thing we're rooting for. I'm sorry, but if the argument is that AOC has not actually been anti-Israel, that's not going to work very well. Now, I know that that's not the argument that was made here, but I'm using the clip to show a vague sentiment that I've been seeing a lot on the left, because I've seen a ton of people who have argued that Marjorie Taylor Greene is now to be celebrated, but AOC was not willing to say that, oh, Israel's doing a genocide, and she wasn't able to say it under Biden, for instance, and that's a really funny sentiment that I found right about here. So look, there are several issues where I disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, but unlike AOC, first of all, if you're on Marjorie's side, you need to go ahead and check your bedfellows. I'm sorry, but there are certain allies who ought not be on our side, and the bitch who has been ridiculously anti-trans, who got people tased 100 fucking feet in front of me in a fucking building while I was protesting her, sorry, but not gonna be on her side. I'm not. And when I made my video on MTG recently, I said as much then as well, where all of the threats of violence that she is getting right now are a monster of her own making for the base that she courted. So you can be against Israel's actions and not be against Judaism. Israel doesn't equate to Judaism. Exactly. There are a lot of issues where I disagree with MTG, but unlike AOC, she publicly called out Trump during his presidency. AOC refused to do this to Biden. Marjorie Taylor Greene was willing to lose her seat, but AOC is not out here using Zionist talking points and calling people anti-Semitic. Girl, bye. Okay, sure would be really weird if this tweet existed. Sure would be super strange if, under the President Biden presidency, AOC said that the horrors unfolding in northern Gaza are a result of a completely unrestrained Netanyahu government fully armed by the Biden administration while food aid is blocked and patients are bombing the hospitals. This is genocide of Palestinians, and the United States have to stop enabling it. Arms embargo on Israel now. Boy, howdy, sure would be really awkward for all of the vaguely left people who think that AOC isn't doing enough, and therefore we need to go ahead and lose another Democrat who actually has been working largely on our side for fucking years. No, we have to lose her because she's not anti-Israel enough, despite the fact that she did the thing you said she didn't do. You said she wasn't willing to risk her seat. So she wasn't critical of Biden and didn't call what's going on in Gaza a genocide. And yet, that's what she fucking did. That's what she fucking did. Now let's go ahead and see what her reasonings were specifically. Because everything that I'm seeing here doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. It reeks of just like snot-nosed shit. But, AOC, in your own words, why don't you want to work with that bitch?
You know? And,
Also, let's point out that Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't have any power anymore. She left her seat, so, like, what the fuck is she gonna do? Co-sign with MTG when MTG doesn't have a position of leadership anymore? How is that gonna work out?
I care about results. I care about results. Now, there are certain places where, certain areas where I don't think that we should ignore some folks' record on some of these issues, right? It's about where we trust intent, where we trust where those outcomes are going. I personally do not trust someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, a proven bigot and anti-Semite, on the issues of what is good for Gazans and Israelis.
That's reasonable. That's a reasonable take. If you're anti-Israel because you're anti-Semitic, I don't want you on my fucking side. You're an idiot. You're somebody who I don't need in my coalition. But if you are anti-Israel because you're anti-genocide or you're anti-Zionist, cool, you get to be part of the coalition. You're fine. But we do not take the position that it's okay to hate on somebody just because of their religion, or hate on somebody just because of their place of birth, or hate on somebody just because of their race. We don't do that. We don't need that. That's a poison. Any progressive coalition of any kind that allows that shit in, that is a cancer. It will grow, it will divide, it will find a way to destroy everything from the inside out. Voice says AOC didn't risk her seat because no one gives a fuck if you go against a Democrat president. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, there have not been times where going against the Democrat president has the same risk to your seat as going against Trump does in 2026. Your seat is far more volatile under Trump than it ever could have been under 12 Bidens.
I don't think that it benefits our movement in that instance to align the left with white nationalists. I don't think it serves us. And so I think it's about looking at the context, the place, the results, the outcomes, intentions.
That all makes sense. What possible problem could you have with that? The left needs to be a big tent. I agree with anybody who has that sentiment. I have that sentiment. The left, broadly speaking, in the United States, needs to include progressives, leftists. It needs to include people who are liberal. It needs to include people who are Soc Dem. It needs to include people who are socialists. It needs to include people who are communists. It needs to include people who are anarchities, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what derogatory name I might have for your ideology, but if you are vaguely on the left, then right now our enemy is currently Trump administration, vaguely capitalism later when we have the ability to actually do things about the system that's fucking us. Do you know who doesn't need to be in there? Right-wing nationalist. You don't need it. You don't need it. The purpose of a big tent is to bring in everybody that you can to swell your numbers to be effective, but the tent still has a fucking border. There is still an end to the tent. There is an area where a line has been drawn, where the tent has been pitched. And I think right-wing Christian nationalism is where I am okay with that tent being pitched and being opposite of. I am okay with, at the very least, those people being outside of the coalition. That sounds perfectly reasonable to me in every way, shape, and form.
And where we think that train would go. But as far as what someone says about me, I could care less. And, I think it's really about what our outcomes are. And to be honest, there are some areas where things will not get done if they're partisan because they are anti-establishment. There is bipartisan consensus on keeping and protecting stock trading in Congress. And so it's going to require a massive bipartisan consensus of people willing to come together across those differences to get it done.
So, that's the clip that has some leftists angry on the internet. And I'm not saying random small lefties, no, this 106,000 followers. That's a large creator. Both of the people that I'm talking about are large creators. And their opinions are vaguely, AOC didn't agree with the right-wing nationalist bigot because she sees through the fucking veil of what she's doing. Wah. Like, no. Each and every one of you. Each and every one of you. You have the political savviness of a fucking pill bug. Jessa says, yeah, her wanting to ban lobbyists with Cruz in 2021 is good. Yeah, like, there are uses for political lobbying, right? I have only ever lobbied once, but I did gain a lot of experience from that moment. And when I lobbied with Equality Georgia, we successfully stopped right-wingers from enacting a law that would have positively affected people's ability to get Narcan, but would have knocked out transgender care in Georgia, effectively. We stopped them from doing that. We got them to let the thing die in procedure. And while at the time I didn't feel like I was doing a whole lot of good, the results spoke for themselves. I was one tiny bit of that. And there were plenty of people who talked to more people than I did and were more affected than I was. Hell, of all the politicians I was trying to get a hold of, the only one that I got more than a handful of words in with was fucking Bill Krauser. And even that was ridiculously uncomfortable because he invited me into an elevator, and I had to have that conversation in an enclosed elevator with him. That was stressful. But there is a usage to political lobbying where you can get minority groups to have a better say in what's going on in the government. However, it is generally used primarily as a way to court money being filtered into politics so that politicians will sign off on things that help giant corporate lobbyists more than it helps the little guy. So I can understand that. Also, yeah, stock trading being allowed in Congress should not be allowed. I'm sorry, but if you are in Congress, you make enough money. You make a six-figure salary if you're in the Senate, if memory serves. Let me double check that. U.S. Senate salary. Fairly certain I'm right on this one. $174,000. U.S. House salary. Should be lower. Wait, no. $174,000. The Speaker of the House gets $223,000, and the House Minority Leader and Majority Leader get $193,000. You don't need to trade stocks with that much money. You don't. There's no world in which you need to trade stocks with that much money. There are very few people in America that can spend that much money unless they are deliberately increasing the size of their gilded fucking cage. And yet, for some reason, we allow stock trading within that group of people. Like, no, once you become a servant of the American public, then you should not have special interest in any fucking corporate lobby. And you not having stock options there is one of the ways we make that happen, especially because one of the main purposes of stock for basic American individuals who aren't day trading is to be a retirement fund, a 401k. But a 401k is hardly a retirement fund, and if you're in the Senate or in the House, when you're there long enough, guess what you get? A pension. You get a pension, eventually. Your shit's paid for by the American taxpayer for the rest of your life. Like, it's like being in the military. After you hit a certain point, you just have a check that comes to you. Dorita says, not to mention private donations, undisclosed donations, book deals, etc. Dorita says, no bullshit. No. No bullshit. Calling bullshit on that one. Not long enough. 5 years for pension. 5 years for pension, not 20 years. Okay, so you seem to have autistically taken issue with the exact words I used, when the point was to say a person in the military hits a certain point and therefore gets a pension. A person in the Senate or the House works to a certain point and gets a pension. The point was not that the time was identical between the two of them. That's not the point. Was never the point of my statement. The point of my statement was, in short, there is a point where you do get that. Now, should it be less than 20 years for the military? Yeah. It doesn't take more than a handful of years in the military, even a handful of months in the military, before a serviceman might get completely fucking ruined body and mind. They go on the wrong TDY and they're fucked for life. Dorita says autistic scree. Yeah, you can do that. That's entirely fine. But like, you took issue with a thing that there was no issue to take issue with. Congratulations. But regardless, there is no world where a person who's a representative or a House Speaker or who's on the House at all should be trading stock shit. They don't need the money. They make enough. They make double, triple, quadruple, or even 8 to 10 times what most of the people viewing this video, much less fucking vote for them, make. They don't need the money. They don't. But don't worry. AOC didn't say genocide in Gaza enough, so primary her, I guess. Despite the fact that she fucking did. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitt, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.